Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. I'm about to react to this video called Unnerving Encounters on Roads at Night. I want to say I ain't never experienced nothing like this, and I hope I never experience nothing like this.
In 2021, at around 7:40 p.m., an Australian man named Mitch Cooney was driving down the Hume Highway in Bardia, Australia. He was returning from a racing event and heading home to Gold Coast City when, completely out of nowhere, he saw a childlike figure standing in the middle of the road. The figure was wearing a blue parka, and from the few seconds he was in view, it looked like he was trying to cross the highway. Now, Mitch was driving at nearly 60 miles an hour, or around 96 kilometers per hour. He was also towing a large toy hauler behind his car. Trying to brake or suddenly move out of the way in these conditions would have certainly
I want to pause this and say that wasn't no child. That don't look like no child I ever seen. Because if you zoom in closer, that is not a child. If you ask me, I thought that was some supernatural stuff going on, but that definitely wasn't no child.
Resulted in a devastating accident, so Mitch had no choice but to keep driving. Fortunately, he managed to avoid the mysterious figure by mere inches. Fearing the safety of a potential child wandering the Hume Highway, his mother, who was also with him at the time, contacted the Australian police almost seconds later. The officers online assured them that they were putting patrols out immediately. However, Mitch couldn't stop thinking about what he saw. Trying to do everything he could, he called the police again at 8:29 p.m. and offered the dashcam footage he'd captured of this figure. But to Mitch's surprise,
Something fishy going on.
that they swept the area and actually found a young child matching the description he provided, and that he was being returned to his home as they spoke. What a child was doing in the middle of a highway at night.
That don't look like a child I ever seen before. I don't know about y'all, but that does not look like a child.
As Mitch put it on Facebook later that night, I felt absolutely sick when all this happened. I instantly felt so much better when I was told the kid had been collected. However, just when Mitch thought everything worked out okay, things took a wild turn. After confirming that the kid was safe, Mitch uploaded the video from his dashcam onto the internet, hoping to share the unnerving encounter he had with others. But as the video and his story gained traction, the New South Wales Police Department came forward and announced that they didn't find any child on the highway that night, completely contradicting what they had told Mitch that night. According to the official report, they scoured the surrounding area for...
So why would the police lie about finding the child? I don't know about y'all. If they didn't find the child, why would they lie? And don't say it's miscommunication, because they have all that on file. If they would have found the child, it would have been on file. If they didn't find the child, it would have been on file. All people got to do is look. Why would you lie about finding the child? Something fishy is going on.
Nearly 8 hours, searching until 3:45 a.m. before finally calling it off and finding no trace of a child nearby. The department stated that multiple cars attempted,
like I said, why the freak would they lie about
However,
that?
no child was located and the search concluded. Now, there's no reason to believe that the NSW police would lie on an official report like this.
Well, it seems like they did.
What's more likely is that the person talking to Mitch earlier didn't know the full details and just made things up.
Well, if he didn't know, maybe he shouldn't have opened his big mouth.
Where the police searching for the child somehow got twisted into them already having found him. But if the child was never found, what happened to him? The answer to that question, however...
Exactly. What happened to the child? How did he just disappear in the middle of nowhere?
He could have been potentially kidnapped by someone who saw a child roaming the highway alone at night.
Like I said, that don't look like no child I ever seen.
Explain how the child got to that spot in the first place. Unfortunately, the case remains an unsolved mystery to this day, and with so little coverage, it's unlikely we'll get answers anytime soon. On May 8th, 2021, TikToker Pissed Pasta, real name Malib Perales, was returning from a night out with her friends and roommates around 2:30 a.m. However, what was supposed to be a fun hangout took a disturbing turn when, while driving down the Packard Drive Northeast Road next to the Rogue River in Belmont, Michigan, one of them spotted a shadowy figure crawling onto the road. What the f***? Stop.
That's the same thing I said. Like, What was that woman doing? Like, how did she even get there in the first place? Did she get kidnapped or what?
After discussing for a bit, the group decided to circle back and check what it was. And this is what they came across.
Now, this was just creepy if you ask me.
That was it. That was it. She's crying.
I know they had to be losing their mind.
It looked like a young woman, possibly in her 20s or 30s, sitting on the road while either waving at the car or banging her own head. She was also drenched from head to toe in 48 Fahrenheit or about 9 Celsius weather. Mali's group.
How did she get there in the first place? That's the true question.
And this time, the woman had completely collapsed onto the road. By this point, Mali and her friends had realized that this woman was likely in dire need of medical assistance. But there was also a chance that this was a setup for a robbery. So they made the smart choice and called 911 without getting out of their car. The first responders and the police arrived shortly after and took her to a nearby hospital. Mali returned to the spot they found her a few hours later, and it was still wet from the water dripping from her clothes. More importantly, she also found dig marks on the roadside near the river, suggesting that the woman had likely fallen in and swam out onto the road just minutes before Mali's group passed by. After some investigation,
this story right here, I don't know what to
found
say
a car
about
parked
this
behind
one.
a house near the river. In other words,
I have no words for this one.
Side and managed to swim all the way across to the other side. Inquiring about her in the Facebook group for this neighborhood also revealed that she had actually interacted with some of the residents earlier that day, though her interactions were unnerving to say the least. Saw this person between Van Dam and Packer Woods around 10:15 p.m. Friday, asked her if she needed help, to which she responded no. Another quote: "There's another report by a guy on Douglas Street in the West Siders uniforms page who had a similar situation with a woman walking into his home this week. She walked right into someone's house yelling, 'Hello, hello, hello,' then just left. She was
Yeah, that would have been freaky to me. That would have been weird.
She ended up there is still a mystery.
Why she just walk in somebody's house and hello, 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 and just
she
left?
recovered enough to tell investigators that she was from
I
Kalamazoo,
don't know.
a town that's over 60
I don't know what she was
miles
going
away from where she
through
was found,
or what.
but she didn't have any memory of ever driving to Belmont.
She must have been
Which
going
sounds
through
strange at
something.
first,
She must
but
have
actually
saw
has a
something that she ain't got no
surprisingly
business
plausible
seeing or what.
You see, this woman was a
This is like
28-year-old
demonic
Chinese student named May, who
behavior.
went missing from Kalamazoo on May 6th, 2 days before she was discovered in Belmont. Before going missing, she also told her friends that she felt like she had a stalker. Upon hearing this,
Could have been a
one of the
demonic
first
stalker.
theories that comes to mind is that maybe she was kidnapped and then thrown into the river by this stalker. But it's important to note that according to the few witnesses in the police investigation, she drove to Belmont on her own. It's unclear whether this stalker was even real or not. However, the stress of feeling like she was
Like I said, it could have been a demonic stalker or supernatural. You never know what people going through these days or what they're dealing with.
Who they are and often starts doing things they otherwise wouldn't do. Some even go as far as moving to other cities and building new lives before they snap out of the state and come to their senses. What makes this already unsettling condition even worse is that the patient usually doesn't remember what they did during that fugue state either. And that's what likely happened to May. She got stressed, went into a fugue state.
I don't know. That whole situation was kind of creepy.
Fortunately, she was able to come to her senses and swim to the shore before losing her life. On the 12th of October 2016, a family in Sheffield, England, went to the Drawbridge pub for a night out. And after an evening of fun and laughter, they decided to head back home at around midnight. The roads in that area are usually deserted at that hour, so they were already on guard for any robbers or other criminals they might run into on their way back. However, nothing in the world could have prepared them for what they came across just 5 minutes later. Seconds after they rounded the corner to the Grange Mill Lane Road, a man dressed in a clown costume jumped out from the shadows and blocked the road, forcing the driver to stop. He then started waving at the car.
I think this man handled himself very well.
He started running towards it while still blocking the path forward.
Because
when the driver tried to reverse his
this
car
is just crazy right here. Look at this.
At full speed. Typically, something like this could be dismissed as just some troll or a YouTuber making a scaring people at night as a clown video, especially given that this was 2016. However, due to an incident that happened just 3 days earlier, the driver of this car had no choice but to assume the worst. You see, on October 9th, at around 8:45 p.m., a man named Simon Chinnery was attacked by a knife-wielding clown in public.
See, these days you just don't know with people.
Before he could do any lethal
They say he was
damage to
attacked
Simon.
by a clown.
Sadly, Simon still suffered multiple
You
slashes
just don't
to his
know.
right hand, leaving it
People are
permanently
psychotic
disfigured to the point
and
of being
crazy.
classified as a disability. What's worse than the attack itself was that it went viral and started a craze of thousands of others trying to imitate the attacker.
Why the fuck would you try to imitate somebody being attacked, though? That's stupid.
23 reports of people threatening others dressed as clowns per day. And while many of these imitators,
and this is why a lot of people don't like clowns. Believe it or not, many people fear clowns. They can't. They're so scared of them.
Cars and chasing women and children with
And
knives.
can you blame them for what people be doing with clown costumes these days?
Had to be deeply unnerving for him. Their fear became worse when they tried to flee the clown, because it started chasing them like a madman. With no other
Yeah, I don't know what the hell was wrong with that
person. Press the
person.
pedal to the metal and hope for the best, with the clown jumping out of the way at the last second. This entire situation could have just as easily ended with the clown losing his life if he had
it could have. Or
if
he would have got out the car,
On the other hand,
they could
who knows what the
have
attacker
died.
would have done if the driver hadn't sped off.
Exactly. Good thing he didn't stop the car and get out.
On June 2nd, 2018, one of the officers for Fulshire Police Department in Texas was driving back to the station after his shift, when suddenly he saw the car in front of him swerve onto the next lane to avoid hitting something. But this wasn't a tree branch or animal. Instead, it was something that looked like the aftermath of either a horrific crime or an accident. A young woman in a blue
Boy,
shirt
that woman is lucky that the person in that vehicle saw her. Because if he didn't see him, she could have easily been dead.
Dumped the body in the middle of the road after committing the crime.
Oh my God, this lady, I don't know what she was going through or what made her do that.
Even stood up on her own.
But that was very dangerous. She could have
She had
died.
driven her car into the ditch next to the road just minutes earlier. Later tests also discovered an extremely high blood alcohol concentration in her system.
Oh, so she was drunk, huh?
Under the influence and ended up crashing into the side.
See, that's why I don't drink to get drunk, because I like having consciousness 24/7. I like to be in control of my behavior. When you're drunk, you just do some crazy shit that you can't even control.
Or she would have ended up as nothing more than a cautionary tale about driving under the influence.
She would have been dead if that car hadn't seen her.
On the night of February 26th, 1946, 25-year-old Jimmy Hollis and his girlfriend Mary Jean were returning to their homes in Texarkana, Texas after watching a movie together. But before they reached the city limits, Jimmy stopped the car on the side of the road to extend their date for a short while. What neither of them knew, however, was that this little detour would nearly cost them their lives. About 10 minutes after they had stopped, a man came out of the nearby woods and approached the car.
Like I said
he was wearing a white
about the
coat
last
over his
video,
head with
you
two
just
small
can't
holes for
trust
eyes.
people these
The rest
days.
of his face was
People
completely
are
hidden.
crazy.
He told Jimmy
Whoever
to
this
get out of the
dude is
car.
in this car,
Jimmy initially believed that
you
this
can
was a
tell
prank
that
of
that
sorts and
motherfucker
didn't pay much
crazy.
attention to it. The masked man then pulled out his firearm and pointed it towards the couple, stating, "I don't want to kill you, fella. Just do what I say."
Well, nigga, don't pull the gun out if you ain't gonna kill nobody. Who the fuck pulls the gun out and says, "I don't want to kill you"? Don't nobody do that. They just gonna shoot your
swung
ass.
his weapon at Jimmy's head, knocking him unconscious. Mary tried to run away into the woods, but the man caught up and did the same to her. Thankfully, before he could go further, he got spooked.
Well, this
by
couple
the
right here
road
lucky
and
they
ran
didn't
away.
die, cause
Mary immediately ran to the nearest house and asked them to call the police. Jimmy also regained consciousness and hailed down a passing car to ask for help. However, by the time the police arrived on the scene to investigate, the man had vanished without a trace. Jimmy and Marie were taken to the hospital, where it was discovered that the strike had fractured Jimmy's skull in multiple places. Fortunately, he was able to recover without any lasting injuries.
that's why you should always be aware of your surroundings. Pay attention. Make sure nobody's following you. Make sure nobody's in front of you, behind you, on the side of you. Make sure nobody watching you. Always pay attention to your surroundings.
The two couldn't agree on his ethnicity. Jimmy insisted that he was a Caucasian, while Mary stayed adamant that he was of African
I would have
origin.
kept on driving. I wouldn't have
This
stopped.
contradiction, along with the seemingly unprovoked nature of the incident, led investigators to incorrectly believe the couple knew the man.
If the
and were
area
simply
is
trying to
shady,
protect
9
him.
times out of 10, that's a
What they
shady
didn't
ass place.
realize was that while Jimmy and Mary survived to give a description, The next couple wouldn't be as fortunate.
Oh, so he killed
About a month later, on March 24th, a man was driving down a secluded road on the outskirts of Texarkana when he noticed a car parked on the road ahead. From a distance, it looked like a young man was sleeping in that car, slumped over on the steering wheel. However, as the driver got closer, he suspected that something wasn't right. So he pulled over to the side and walked up to the other car to try to wake him up, only to come to a scene far more horrific than he could have ever imagined. Put simply, the young man had already passed away long before the driver stumbled across him.
Dang, they got
He also
beat.
noticed a woman
They
in the
got
backseat
murdered.
who sadly
You can see
suffered
a
the same
bullet hole
fate.
in his head.
Police were called to the scene, and they quickly identified the two as Richard Griffin and his girlfriend Polly Ann Moore. Both were killed with shots to the head. Unfortunately, the only evidence investigators were able to gather from the crime scene was a single .32 caliber cartridge. And while
You
they
just
didn't
don't
it
know
at
what
this
people
point,
these
this
days.
incident was also the doing of the same man Jimmy and Mary had encountered.
It had
a
to
month
be the
earlier.
same guy.
The
Who
police
else would
finally
it
made this
be?
connection on April 14th when another couple encountered the same man while on an
Dang,
isolated
he killed
road.
like 2
They were
couples?
killed with a firearm of the same caliber. News of these 3 incidents quickly spread through Texarkana, putting all the
Oh, he
residents
killed.
on high alert.
Damn.
Fearing for their safety, most residents stopped driving at night entirely, while the remaining made sure to avoid empty roads at all costs. The masked man was also given the name of the Texarkana Phantom due to his inability
And
to
I got
appear
family
and
who live in
disappear without a
Texarkana
trace.
too.
And true
I
to
didn't know
his
this
name,
kind of
it
shit
was
be
becoming
going on.
harder to track with each passing day, even after the FBI got involved. After 2 more months of fruitless searching, one of the investigators noticed that the vehicles were stolen shortly before each incident and were found abandoned not long after. Following this lead led to a man named Ewell Swinney, a car thief with 2 felonies to his name already. His height and build matched what Jimmy and Mary had described earlier. More importantly, when an officer tried to arrest him for the 3rd time for car theft, he claimed that he knew that the officer wanted him for more than stealing cars. Unfortunately, investigators weren't able to find any evidence linking Ewell directly to the 3 haunting road encounters. Luckily, his prior felonies allowed prosecutors to give the harshest punishment for his 3rd theft-related offense and sentenced him to life in prison. That being said,
That might not even be the guy who was doing it.
In 1994,
You know,
leaving
they
the
weren't even
Texarkana
sure.
Phantom encounters a somewhat unresolved mystery to this day. Michelob Ultra Zero. On the 8th of January, 2024, a truck driver was driving on a remote stretch of highway in Western Australia when at around 11 p.m., this driver had the most unnerving road encounter of his life. Nearly 62 miles south of Perth, he saw what looked like 2 people dragging something across the
I don't know
highway.
what the hell. Oh, they
They
were
showed up
dragging a
almost out of
body, it
nowhere,
looked like.
forcing the
They
truck
must have
driver to
committed a
swerve
horrible
around with
crime.
dangerous speed. But by the time he stopped the truck and looked back, they had already vanished into the surrounding darkness. Which begs the question, what were they dragging and why? Unfortunately,
Looked like a body if you ask me. You can clearly see legs.
For starters, it's extremely difficult to identify.
That's the
what
body.
exactly
You can see
they're dragging.
legs, boxers,
Explained by
shorts,
Ray,
whatever the
you
fuck
can
he
see
had
what
on.
looks like the legs of another person wearing
Exactly.
shorts and black shoes. So maybe the 2 people were trying to hide the primary evidence of their horrific crime. But in motion, it looked more like an animal or something in between.
No, that was a human, not an
Maybe a
animal.
life-size plush, though that doesn't explain its very human-like proportions.
Exactly.
Regardless of what it was, however, an equally important question is why 2 people would drag something across a highway. On September 16th, 2018, an Uber driver from New York shared the terrifying encounter he had with an angry man on Long Island. He was about to complete a ride when, out of nowhere, another car drove past him at a very high speed while barely avoiding a collision. But before the Uber driver could even process what had happened, the other driver slammed on the brakes and parked in the middle of the road, blocking him from moving
Crazy
forward.
people, I
Then
swear.
got out of the car, ran over, and started bashing on the windows, telling the Uber driver to get out.
If you ask me, I think he handled his stuff very well in this situation. Because I would have took off as soon as I saw something was not right. Never sit there to see what happens. You don't never want to see
It's
what
unclear
happens.
if this was simply unprovoked road rage
No.
or an attempt to rob the driver and his passengers.
It could have been both, road
Not
rage
wanting to
and
find
he
out
wanted
the
to rob
answer,
the person.
The Uber driver made the correct decision and backed up to find a different route to his
I would have done the
destination.
same thing.
However, there was no way for him to predict just how relentless the other driver would be. As soon as the Uber driver changed routes, the other driver got in his car as well and started chasing him no matter where he went. Things went from bad to worse as they approached a red light, which would have given the other driver a chance to catch up and do something terrible before the police arrived. But in a remarkable stroke of luck, the Uber driver found a cop already waiting on the other side of the intersection.
Oh, he lucky that cop is right there. I think that cop basically saved his life.
Stopped the car, got out of the car, was trying to fight with me.
That cop might have saved their life.
And turned around and he was pursuing me. And these girls called 911, and the officer.
Dang, lucky that cop is right there.
The other driver wasn't thinking clearly and could have been armed. If the Uber driver had panicked when he first approached, all three of them might have lost their lives.
Exactly, they could have been dead. I don't know. That last one would have pissed me off because, damn, why the fuck would you do all that? Y'all, thank you for watching my video, and I'll see y'all in the next one.